This particular session is hosted by Avid Learning. The session is on social foodies, the new foodpreneurs. As you might know, there are a lot of new food startups coming up, different kind of dining experience. The food has now a altogether new definition in the world of digital and online space, and a lot of food bloggers are coming up. So today we have a very interesting and insightful session wherein we have three superb panelists, I would say. The first panelist for the day is Yohaan Dattoobhai, Kaboom founder. And the second panelist is Munaf Kapadia, CEO of the Bohri Kitchen. And the moderator for the session is Akshay Tandon, co-founder and CEO of Skarma. Without further delay, let me invite them to the stage.
Thank you very much for that warm introduction. So our topic is food entrepreneurship, food in the world of social media and technology. And, just a quick show of hands, from the audience. So how many of us are influenced by social media when we're making a decision about where we want to eat next or where we would like to go out next, right? So so once more, another quick show of hands. Is social media changing our food habits? Yes. Yeah. But then we also have another counter question to that. Is the hype a lot larger than the actual pace in which the behavior is changing? I mean, we do have the Zomatos and the tiny owls who are sort of laying off hundreds of employees, growing faster than they think the behavior is changing. So these are the questions that we're going to sort of try and see if we can get some answers from Yohaan and Munaf out of. So let me start with these two guys over here. So we'll start with Munaf in terms of his entrepreneurial journey, and we'll quickly get into how social media has sort of helped bolster that. So Munaf, in the brief discussion that we had earlier, you basically hinted at how you struck a social formula. So tell us how you got started, tell us the background of the Bohri Kitchen, how it came about, and what was this social formula that you struck? And when did you realize that you have struck this social formula?
Testing. Hello. Can everyone hear me? Guys. So hey, I'm Munaf Kapadia. She said CEO, but I like to call myself the Chief Eating Officer of the Bohri Kitchen. What is TBK? So TBK started around 10 months back, where I was looking for a hobby to keep my mother busy on weekends, something she could do. So as an experiment, we quickly sent out an email to 50 friends and we said that, hey, I'm going to charge you to eat my mother's awesome Bohri food. This is the menu. Will you come and will you pay for it? And surprisingly, it worked. Since then, we've been very lucky. Since then, the newspaper, various newspapers have picked us up, televisions picked us up, radios picked us up, and TBK is wherever it is today, and it's fairly popular online. The reason I'm here today and I've been invited here today is TBK is a Facebook startup in every sense. Its virality, its business model, everything revolves around what happens on my Facebook page. And you're talking about the social formula. The social formula which I think TBK has managed to strike is today the business TBK generates organically via social media. So it's not an advertisement that comes in the paper or mention on any promoted medium. Instead, it's a Facebook comment that someone who's attended a TBK session would put up online, and that generates business for me. And I think that's the formula which I'm pretty proud of with the Bohri Kitchen, because obviously it has a lot of ROI.
I'm going to dwell on that a little more. So the first thing you did was you sent an email to 50 people, right? So how did that translate from 50 people on email to eventually getting on Facebook? What was that process, and how did that, did that happen as a obvious next step, or was that something that was premeditated and a strategic decision that influenced your business model?
80% of what worked with the Bohri Kitchen was a fluke. It was completely by chance. So for example, the 50 emails I sent that because that's the only option I had. How do you send a menu to 50 people? You send it by email. So I sent it to 45 friends and 5 random people I somehow got emails of. And I think one mistake I made is 7 of them were vegetarian. So they got pretty offended by the menu I sent. But someone out there, one of those 50 guys who didn't think I was spamming them, decided, hey, this is really awesome. Okay, this is very, very interesting. Let me forward it to someone else. And a couple of forwards went out to people I haven't spoken to before. And one of those forwards calls me and tells me, hey, the Bohri Kitchen is at a restaurant. And I'm like, no, I'm inviting people home to eat the food. And she's like, oh my God, that's even cooler. Are you sure you're okay doing that? I'm like, yeah, are you okay paying me money for that food? So she's like, yeah, definitely. And she came with 6 people. And that's the first TBK, and that's how it sold out. And then it just took off from there. Their reaction and their, like, for the first time in 26 years, my mother got acknowledged for her food. Okay, she has 4 kids. Not one of us has ever said thank you, okay, for the food she makes. The first 6 customers who come and hug her. And this is after paying me, you know, for the food. So it's a beautiful, it's very interesting. And then one night, randomly, so after a few weeks of doing this, one night just before sleeping, it hit me, hey, listen, let me just put something up on Facebook. And I think I actually did it via my mobile phone. It was that, like, random. And I must have put it up at 1 a.m. Till 6 a.m. my phone was beeping, beep, 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 beep. I was ignoring it. I wake up at 6, really irritated, and I just check my phone, and TBK had 150 likes overnight. And that is a symptom of virality. That's a symptom of curiosity in the market. And then I tapped that and I took it to its next logical step.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think, you know, like, so that's definitely an example of how a business model has emerged purely as a consequence of social media being a very integrated part of our lives, of technology being present in our pockets. Like the fact that Munaf started his Facebook page from his cell phone is pretty sort of representative.
Don't quote me on that because I'm not sure if it's possible. Okay, so
no, I think it is.
I think I did, yeah.
No, I run a digital agency, so yeah, I can speak with confidence. Okay, like, so Yohaan, you know, started with secrets. We started with some secret suppers, then off to Kaboom, and so, like, tell us about your entrepreneurial journey, and then we'll get into how social media has sort of played a role in that.
Sure. So about 3 years ago, I quit my corporate job and decided to become an entrepreneur. And I, you know, said to myself, I've always worked at media, and I said, look, I want to actually go into a slightly more stable business, which was food. And unknowingly, I think I stumbled into the food industry at the time when technology was absolutely disrupting the food business, the same way technology has disrupted the media business. So I think unknowingly and unwittingly, I kind of, you know, jumped from the frying pan into the fire. We have, I mean, in terms of the business itself, our first brand is a brand called Sucre de Terre. We make artisanal ice creams. And again, it was a business that was started because of the viral nature of food these days. There are these underground pop-up dinners called Secret Suppers. And we had done an ice cream sandwich as part of that. And there was somebody over there who said, oh, can you make us some ice creams? And we said, sure. So we made like 40 ice creams for them. And then there was somebody at that dinner who said, oh, this is amazing. Can you make ice creams for us? And we said, sure. And then, you know, we made some ice creams from them. And then people started Instagramming and, posting pictures of these ice creams on Facebook. And before you knew it, we were doing, you know, multiple orders a week. And so we decided to kind of brand that, and we've got an ice cream business out of it. Incidentally, we use social media and the idea that a great shot of ice cream is actually all you need to sell an ice cream really well. We use that a lot when we launch new flavors and stuff. So I think from that point of view, online and offline and integration of online-offline virality has given birth to our first brand, which is Sucre de Terre. The second brand that we started is Kaboom. And the idea of Kaboom is, the idea is to kind of be India's equivalent of Chipotle. And by that, I don't mean burritos. By that, what I mean is really good quality food accessible at great prices. So when we started that, we thought of that primarily as an offline business. You think of like units and units and stores and restaurants where people can come. But actually, the more time we spend in it, the more we realize that this distinction between online and offline doesn't exist. So we use digital and particularly social media in really interesting ways across the business. We use it we use it to upload our menus as well. We have a menu that changes every day, and instead of actually doing menus for the week as newspaper inserts and things like that, what a lot of people do, what we do is at 11 o'clock, when people get hungry, we upload our menu for the day on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So that's how our customers find out what's on our menu for what's at Kaboom for the day, and they decide where to come in or not. But we also use it in other interesting ways which have nothing to do with marketing. We use it for recruiting. So of course, we get a lot of our chefs and sort of management teams from platforms like LinkedIn or other, people find out about us through our various posts, and so social has become a key form of recruiting and operations. We use it a lot for procurement. We are on sort of groups with great organic farmers. So often in the morning we'll get a photo of some great vegetable that a farmer or fruits that a farmer's bringing in fresh that morning, and they say, oh, we're bringing this into Bombay, does anybody want it? And then whoever kind of tweets or whoever replies gets first dibs on that. So we use it as procurement, and so it sort of begins to impact the business in many ways. What's interesting is, I think with our brands, almost quite different to Munaf's, they were brands which and businesses that you would traditionally think of as offline businesses, and we had no intention of actually doing something that was digital first or mobile first. But what we found is having the businesses be technology enabled, and more specifically socially enabled, makes our businesses much more powerful and allows us to offer our customers something which is much more interesting.
Munaf, so would you say that you get, say, the majority of your business coming in as a consequence of social media?
I get all my business as a consequence of social stuff. Okay, I don't have a good enough quote for that. What I mean by that is, out of the 15 guests I have every Saturday and Sunday, maybe 2 to 3 are word of mouth. So some sort of social phenomenon like that. The balance of Facebook.
Again, Yohaan, what percentage of your sort of audience do you think you are attracting from a purely digital format, and how much of that compares to your offline format?
I think for us it's hard to quantify, but I would say social is a huge driver for all of our food, because a lot of it is impulsive. So just last night we had an example where somebody, where we posted a picture of our chocolate ice cream being churned, and we got a call saying, oh, do you have any chocolate ice cream available, because I really want to eat that. So it's hard to quantify, but anecdotally I would say a lot of it is in some form touched by social.
So we have two very contrasting sort of business models in what Munaf has and what you have. And you had sort of mentioned something earlier about how if social media didn't exist, how different would the landscape of food entrepreneurship be, and would your business still very much be completely viable?
Yeah.
But would your business would not exist at all? So how is social media driving the landscape of food entrepreneurship by breaking down barriers to entry?
Yeah.
And what does that mean for the future of food entrepreneurship and brick and mortar businesses?
Let's start. Perfect. All right. So great question. Very frankly, if Facebook didn't exist, if WhatsApp did not exist, if forget emails, okay, but Facebook, WhatsApp, just these two very specific tools did not exist, TBK wouldn't really exist. all right? TBK being the Bohri Kitchen. The Bohri Kitchen, by definition, is a very scrappy venture where there's been barely any investment, and it's done out of passion. Hence, all my marketing has to be that cost effective. It can't be expensive. I can't invest money in getting people to come to my house and eat food. Hence, I needed a medium which was free, and that's Facebook, and that's Twitter, and that's Instagram, and that's WhatsApp, and email. In terms of the trend, so I'm currently very much plugged into the entire home chef trend. Now, I'm not sure if any of you all have noticed this, but there's an explosion in home chefs lately. Okay, with Hola Chef coming in and various other startups, there's so many talented, fantastic women and men, okay, sitting in Indian households who are like, hey, wait a second, I can make 30,000-40,000 rupees a month doing something which I love doing. And it's not disrespectful. It's not like, I'm turning into some sort of cook or caterer or anything like that. This is just a fun hobby thing. I will continue doing what I'm doing in life, but I can do this on the side and I can make decent money. And that's bloody exciting. And I feel the reason that's happening is largely due to social media. It's largely due to a Bowie bride putting up a post about the food she's making and how successful she is, and various other chefs like that. So that's my take on that.
Yeah,
Yohaan. Yeah.
And I mean, Akshay, I think that's a great question, because often we talk about the power of social media specifically for marketing. So for the ability of a brand owner to tell great stories around their brand, the ability of brand owners to actually communicate offers, or like in our case, put menus up. But I think the one thing which I'm beginning to feel more and more is what social media is doing is it's completely transforming the way businesses are built and run. So even, and it's impacting on every way. So I think one of the most interesting examples is the Bombay food truck. So when we started 3 years ago, we wanted to start with the food truck. So we went out and we realized it was virtually impossible to get the licenses to do that. And we felt that people, would be interested in this, but it's very hard to have that conversation with the BMC official. What the Bombay food truck that started or that sort of started going viral a couple of months ago have done is they are basically using interest on their social media pages to crowdsource interest for food truck and use that as a way to get the BMC to license their food truck. I mean, that's amazing. Social media is beginning to impact licensing and regulation. I mean, like, how extreme is that? And it's impacting in every way. It's impacting funding. Flyover Farm, an urban farm on Mohammed Ali Road, got their funding from Kickstarter, which is a crowdfunding platform in the US. So, like I said, it's impacting businesses, impacting various forms of operations. If you use technology smartly, we are working with a startup, a really cool cloud-based startup in the US called Tembu, and we are working with them to try to find ways to, give us real-time information on the availability of our equipment, our fridges, things like that, which have massive cost to us, and that would be available via an intranet to all of our various employees. So that's another sort of closed social media phenomenon. But if one were to start thinking of how digital and social more specifically can transform your entire business, that's really amazing. And then the other thing that I think social does is it basically rewards two things. One is because it lowers the barrier of entry. It allows people with great ideas like Munaf, like the Bowie bride, to actually try things out for low cost. And the other thing it does is it rewards people who are agile, which by definition are the entrepreneurs, as opposed to the large corporations, because you can react more. So I think what it does is it transforms entrepreneurship as a whole, which makes it great for consumers and customers. So,
no, that's very interesting. I mean, like, especially the Bombay truck example of actually getting licensing, like laws enabled as a process of getting social media, conviction behind you. so like for Munaf, social media has been pretty much a bloodline. For you, it has not been as much as a bloodline as a tool.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that you had used an influencer strategy to help launch some new flavors of ice creams.
Yeah.
One, was that successful? Two, how do you measure whether it was successful or not?
Yeah.
Is it, like, are you tracking things based on engagement? Are you, or is engagement irrelevant, and are you only basing it on like how many times the phone rings?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, so what we did is we had collaborated with a local fromagerie called the Spotted Cow. So they make local camembert cheeses, and we had done a camembert ice cream using the Spotted Cow fromagerie's camembert cheese. And because it's such a, because it was such an interesting flavor, we thought the launch of that flavor also had to be slightly, it had to be differentiated somehow. So what we did is we sent samples of this to various influencers with a little note saying what it was about. And the only call to action that we had over there was the hashtag. That was the only call to action. And, there was probably not as much social media activity as we had imagined, but the phones were ringing non-stop. I think it helped people understand the sort of creativity that we could do, the sort of collaborations we could do. So we started getting a lot of offline requests and a lot of offline interest. So we again gone in thinking we would probably measure it by the number of posts that went up. But there was clearly a huge impact. So I mean, I think there's a lot of creativity that one can sort of put into this these days.
So, say because there's a positive reaction as a consequence of the influencers talking about what you're doing. Now, like, what happens when there is like a negative reaction to something that you've put out, So Munaf, I want to actually throw that to you because I know you have pretty strong opinions on whether you should react to what social media is doing, or you should kind of just have your own active strategy and not really react to everything that's going on, So,
Okay, so
how do you play that? Yeah.
So really cool. Negative feedback on Facebook or any social media channel.
Can everyone hear him?
Testing, hello. Oh. Okay, negative feedback on any social media channel is insanely bad for you. All right, for example, I have this rating. So TBK being a home dining concept doesn't qualify for Zomato. Okay, hence Facebook has turned into my Zomato. Okay, and it's worked out well for us. So I have a rating on Facebook as well. I'm not going to say it because it's really nice and I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. But I got one really bad review yesterday. Okay, 1 out of 5. That brought down my entire average of the rating, and that rating is something that comes on Google search results when you search for the Bohri Kitchen. Okay, that one review. I went out of my way to find a mutual friend I have with that person, because you can check that on Facebook. I called that friend up, I got this girl's number, and I spoke to her saying, hey, what's up, can I help you? And that's not worked yet, but hopefully it will translate into the rating getting fixed. And similarly, you need to do this at scale. So any comments you get, any feed you get, etc., you need to react to it. But what he's referring to is something else which I'm really passionate about, which is you shouldn't proactively push your brand via monetary means on social media. That's a personal opinion I have because of my learnings from the Bohri Kitchen. For example, if you're going to create something on Facebook, do not spend money promoting the post initially. Instead, build an organic following. Get likes, get your first 10,000 likes because people genuinely want to like you. Okay, get them out of reviews, get them out of organic footfall, do those things, and then use Facebook's advertising features to target those guys and their friends. So don't randomly target people in Israel and Pakistan and this and that whose IP is being triggered as Bombay. Instead, or people who just liked your photo, say they liked you, but they're never going to fall in your target group. Instead, it's beautiful what Facebook allows you to do. Target the 10,000 who genuinely like you, and guess what? They're friends who've probably been seeing, the activity around this person's timeline. That's incredibly powerful. I spend 700 rupees a week promoting an event worth 15,000 rupees. Okay, and that's how I get my customers. Why? Because I boost the post to friends of friends. of people who've liked the Bohri Kitchen.
Yeah, I think that a lot of us here would think that it's a double-edged sword, because Facebook algorithms now have reached a point where organic reach is about 0.6%. So definitely if you have a small food business and you're going for a niche audience that's going to come to your home and do that, I think that's a great strategy, and I think that's definitely how we should approach any of those businesses. Now, say like one more follow-up on that, is that customer abuse of the fact that they can reach any of the founders or the owners or the brand heads of particularly food businesses by leaving a bad review. It automatically kind of guarantees that someone's going to follow up and be like, why did you not like our food? Can I give you a free meal so you come back and change your opinion? So like how do you counter that? Or do you counter that? Or is that something, or is that the cost of just being on, social media?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm not going to lie, and it is a double-edged sword, and it's something we've struggled with. We took a very, there are these, we have had situations where sometimes one or two bad incidences have just kind of been really blown out of proportion on social media. But I think, and when you're going through one of those situations, it is quite difficult. But I think just kind of taking a slightly more of a helicopter view, I think it's important to sort of not let one or two rotten apples ruin the barrel. Because I think more generally, what's amazing is that social media gives you a platform to actually have a conversation with your customer. So, there are times when we have made mistakes and they have been genuine. And if it's brought up via social media, what it allows us to do is actually respond straight away and nip problems in the bud. And that is something which I think our team at Kaboom has done really, really well. So they've been able to nip problems in the bud because we are able to have a conversation with our customers. So that is a really powerful aspect of social media. But yes, what it does give rise to is the flip side of the coin, which is some people that abuse it, and that is something you have to deal with.
Yeah, Oli, that brings out a very important aspect, I think, of a very powerful trend that's starting to sweep, say, social media strategies overall. Something that we are advising at Skarma to all of our clients is, let's start using social media only for customer service. And not to post, say, 20 posts a week, and things like that. So social CRM as a function, I think, is probably one of the most useful tools of social media that is arising, because posting something 4 times a day is not necessarily getting you anything, and so we've been using Facebook and Twitter for a lot of our clients only as customer service, so I think that's an important point, definitely. Do we have any bloggers here in the audience? Okay, so just a few. Okay, so you guys are safe when I ask this question,
I think there's a live stream as well.
So experiences with food bloggers, to what extent are they shaping the food industry? Like, to what extent are they shaping the way for food entrepreneurs? Are all of them relevant? Like, how do you sort of weed out the ones that are not necessarily adding value to your business? How do you identify that? And as a follow-up to that is, like, how relevant is a Zomato, Like, and I think, we have two contrasts here, because Munaf is not on Zomato, and he still has a pretty sort of sharp following, and you are on Zomato, and how does that impact you, So let's start with the food bloggers first. And what do you do with them? How do you do it with them? Why do you do it?
So actually, I mean, you're right in saying I think food blogging is one of the most it's really shaken things up, and I think to a large extent we're also trying to understand it because I don't think we interact and engage with the bloggers very well. And again, it's really hard to define, right? Because you've got a lot of people that may not necessarily consider themselves as food bloggers, but their Instagram accounts are actually larger and have more engagement than many of the food bloggers. So who is a food blogger, and actually, how does one engage? And I, for one, feel weird inviting people, like picking up the phone and calling you and saying, oh, since I know like you have 5,000 people on your account, do you want to come to Kaboom for lunch? That feels really weird, right? But I think what's interesting about this, and what I get most excited about, is what suddenly happened is there are multiple voices. And I think what these multiple voices are doing is they are helping create a customer base that is a lot more aware, that is a lot more astute, that is a lot more informed, and therefore this whole myth of the fact that, oh, Indians' palates are very unexperimental, they only want Chinese or Indian or Conti, like that whole myth has completely been busted, because what you're realizing is that actually there is genuine interest in various kinds of cuisines and various kinds of plating styles and various kinds of approaches to food. We've got like 4 or 5 bao restaurants that have popped up in the last 3 months. I mean, who would have imagined? So I think we're still trying to figure it out ourselves, and we are still trying to understand the food bloggerati world ourselves. But I think it's really interesting, because what it's doing is it's giving more voices to more people. I mean, every third resume, incidentally, is somebody who's a food blogger as well that we look at. So it's quite interesting to see how prevalent this is. And I think, I don't know how, but I'm sure it's going to actually very positively impact our food scene.
So my take on food blogging. So when we started TBK, which was again just 10 months back, and even today, I don't consider myself a member of the food industry, not at all. Which is why I love it when I get invited to these things as a food entrepreneur. I'm just the guy who made the Facebook page. My mom does the cooking, and that's about it. And luckily, it's taken off. So when these bloggers started coming in, I had no idea how you're supposed to treat them, right? I'll just say, hey, welcome, and I'll still charge you money for the food you're going to eat. And that worked. Okay, because it's honestly the only reason TBK exists today is because of food bloggers. It's because of journalists. It's because of people who have it in their power to get the word out. What you have in your power is that word. It's what are you going to expose these people to? Okay, don't put too much salt in your food that day. Like, try your best. In my case, I just made sure they met my mom. Because once you meet my mom, you can't write anything bad about the Bohri Kitchen. Okay, so in my, I think it's awesome. Like, recently only I attended a food bloggers FBAI award ceremony. Okay, it's fantastic. These guys are entrepreneurs, yeah. Just like now you have home chefs, you have food blogger entrepreneurs. Okay, these guys are shaping their careers around their passion for food. I met this beautiful girl who's a alcohol critic. And that's going to be the career she's aspiring for. And beyond the fact that that's just awesome in so many other ways, but it's beautiful, right? People are actually finding their passions and doing these things, and anything that's like that has to be awesome.
I'm changing my LinkedIn profile, by the way. Now I'm an alcohol blogger.
All right, so I think we have like a little bit of time left to kind of understand like what are your future plans, and where TBK and like Kaboom are headed. So like Yohaan, let's start with you. In some of our conversations and earlier, you also mentioned that you want to be the Chipotle of India. Like you're using terms which are now becoming globally more and more, I guess, aspirational. Which is farm to fork. You have plans of launching a series of electric scooters for deliveries.
Yeah.
So how is like organic farm?
Yeah.
So how close is an organic farm, say, which is serving food to us on an electric scooter, which is being charged by solar panels? So And what is your role to play in all of that? Yeah.
Served in 100% ink-free biodegradable bowls. So, you know, we dream big and we act small. That's the way we've always done. We've got a couple of units, a couple of new Kaboom units, which are hopefully in the pipeline. We've got delivery, which we've begun piloting this week, actually, a week ahead of schedule. So, you know, I think the teams have done a great job on that. So, you know, and there are, so definitely multiple Kaboom units. And I think it's really important to, you know, as you grow, stay true to the things that you believe in. So, farm to fork is something that we really believe in. You know, we believe the quality of the produce is the single most important factor to that determines the quality of the ultimate food. So we are sourcing directly from farmers. We are improving our network. We are actually going to start. We've been working on some great ideas that will help create a platform for the farmers to then sell the produce straight on to the consumers, you know, using the Kaboom as a platform. You know, sustainable design is something that's really important to us, so that's always going to be there. And I think, you know, what's cool about delivery, and what's cool about when you start thinking about delivery, is to see how much you can use social to impact that. So one of the ideas when we roll out delivery full time is, like I said, we upload our Kaboom menus on social media. We're working on a program to see if you can actually reply to that post as a way of placing your order, and then you'll get the Kaboom scooter, the electric scooter, to come deliver this to you. So yeah, so we've got a few more units in the pipeline, and that's what's going to keep us busy for the next 6 months.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, like, I'm really looking forward to having my food delivered from an organic farm on an electric scooter.
On the electric scooter.
On the electric scooter.
In biodegradable plates, of course. Munaf, you know, like, you have a very interesting idea in terms of developing your business model as a cloud business. So how does a kitchen, so how do you launch a kitchen in the cloud? And like, how does that become a national business? Yeah.
So I read this somewhere, it sounds really cool. It's called restaurant in the cloud. It basically means, it kind of gives it away, but you don't own a physical restaurant. You don't pay those rents, you don't pay those bribes, you don't deal with that licensing and whatnot. You don't deal with staff issues, you don't deal with overheads, you don't deal with inventory. But still, people think you own a restaurant, and people think you run a restaurant. So I am the founder and owner of the Bohri Kitchen restaurant, and one day, hopefully, you'll believe that. And one day, hopefully, you'll go on one of these food delivery apps, or you'll come on my website, or you'll come on whatever other channel there is, or you'll call a phone number, and you'll have access to fantastic, authentic Bohri food. But when you think about my brand, when you think about its equity, when you think about its credibility, you will visualize a physical restaurant, because that's how powerful the brand needs to be. Okay, if I need to buy a bus hoarding for that, if I need to put a billboard up somewhere, I'll do that with investor money, hopefully. But that's what I mean by restaurant in the cloud. It's generating revenue from non-asset heavy, infrastructure, and that's what I hope to achieve with the Bohri Kitchen. I hope to basically become a billionaire one samosa at a time.
Yeah, don't we all? Yeah, so that definitely sounds really exciting, and like Yohaan basically briefly touched how social media has proven that the Indian palate can be sophisticated, it can be knowledgeable, it can have its own voice and doesn't necessarily have to be extra salty, spicy, masaledar, cuisines only. And so I do think that there is a sense of community that is being developed as a consequence of social foodies or food bloggers, food entrepreneurs, and the idea that social media has broken down the barriers to entry for food entrepreneurs to launch their businesses is only going to become more and more relevant as this community of foodies and social foodies extends to tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well, which it's obviously a little slower than what it is right now. So on that note, I think we have just about like 2 minutes each to talk about what is the Kaboom community and what is the Bohri Kitchen community and how are you part of the same community, and whether you agree to that statement or not. And then we'll open up for questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because Munaf and I have known each other for a while, and a lot of the other food entrepreneurs, we've all known each other for a while, and we all sort of tend to, I generally think it's been a very positive relationship that everyone shares. And I think what's happening is you're getting more and more people that are getting into this business, not because this is what they were trained to do, but because this is what they love doing. And I think that's been one of the most rewarding things for me personally over the last 2 years. And I think what that then does is that creates ecosystems that we're all part of, where we can share, supplier networks, farmer networks, people who are like, so we're really passionate about sustainable design. So, and I know that there are a couple of other food entrepreneurs who don't want to use styrofoam boxes, who don't want to, who would like to use alternative energy sources. So, sharing best practices. I think in many ways there's a really exciting ecosystem that's building, and I think it's really fun to be part of it. And of course, these communities are omni-channel. They transcend, Facebook pages and WhatsApp groups and, LinkedIn groups. These are sort of omni-channel communities, and I think that's what makes it most exciting.
Like something really interesting that Yohaan was telling us earlier, I think is worth noting, is that they have a WhatsApp group with all the organic farmers in the Maharashtra region, and every single time there's a new produce, they just send them photographs of the new farm fresh baskets that are available, and a bunch of these guys kind of like order that. And I think that's a sure sign of how a community is kind of being developed.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah,
it's called Mumbai Sullins. You guys should check it out. It's really cool.
What is it called again?
Mumbai Sullins. Sullins. Sullins.
With TBK, TBK is technically my mom's a home chef, which means it gave us an opportunity to be part of this massive underground home chef community. Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a political party one day around home chefs. It's that big. These are bakers. These are people who make ice cream at home. These are people who just make really good Gujarati food, and the 100 other cuisines that exist in this country, and they just make really good food. And they're figuring out, hey, how can I actually make a career out of this? And there are various groups online. There's one such group which I'm going to plug in and say it's called Home Chef Revolution, where there's some 300, 400 home chefs and various other stakeholders of the home chef space who talk about what? They talk about, hey, I need to buy this plastic dabba. Okay, can someone come with me to Crawford Market today and give me company while I buy it? That's the kind of community stuff that's happening. Hey, I need to buy 1 kilo of meat today. Who's the closest supplier and other who'll give it to me at the best rate? And then they complain. They complain about logistic providers. Okay, they complain about various marketing partners, and it just goes on. And it's beautiful and it's thriving. And few of these community members turn into rock stars. Okay, few of them get an opportunity to get limelight, and then they turn into inspiration for others. And that's how this ecosystem feeds itself. Okay, and being part of TBK, I've been lucky enough to witness this. And it's so cool. It's like you're seeing little startups, bubbling and getting developed. And I would invest in them if I had money, but I don't. So it's that cool. And that's one side of the community. The other side I would like to quickly pitch in with is the customer side. Okay, these are the people who are coming and eating your food. Okay, and with the kind of, cool concepts that we are lucky enough to own and run, the kind of customers who come are also really cool. Okay, mind my incredibly vague language, but these guys actually become evangelists. These guys actually go around talking about you. These guys actually turn out to be CEOs of companies and send like the entire team, to a TBK one day. That kind of motivates you, and that kind of tells you, hey, even if the money isn't that good, even if it's incredibly difficult sometimes, but you randomly get that call and that guy's like, dude, I just heard you're starting Run delivery. Wow, I want to. What do I need to do? And that's for me, that's the community.
So on that note, I think we can all agree that what social media is definitely enabling is that communities form around passions, and pretty much everyone's passionate about food. It's very rare to find people that are not passionate about food. So it's definitely a great community, and it's great to have guys like Yohaan and Munaf sort of leading the charge on bringing that community together. And on that note, I'd really like to give them a sort of big round of applause for having shared their story with us. And I think we can open up some questions. Okay. Yeah, we have time for one question.
This question is for Munaf. You might be facing sometimes capacity constraint, and that means there are more customers than what you can do. How do you deal with the customer dissonance?
Okay, so first, just to add a little bit of humor. So I've tried to set a quality cap of 14 people who can comfortably come into my house. So if I'm taking the order, I will be like, I'm really sorry, we can't take you. But if my mom or my colleagues are taking the order, they just let more and more people come in. Okay, and it works out. Yeah. Like the beauty of TBK is it's not a comfortable experience. Okay, it's not. You'll come into my house and it's hot. We don't have air conditioners. We have these fake Dell coolers, okay, that barely work. But you like it and you'll pay for it and you'll enjoy it because there's a lot of sincerity in the product in general. Coming to customer dissonance, the way I deal with it is, and there is a lot sometimes. Like for example, once I had a guest who had booked for his mother. Okay, and we didn't realize that, right? We don't have some fancy CRM system to tell us things like this. But I don't have a lift. And my house is on the second floor. So she couldn't come because of that. She came all the way there and then she saw, oh my God, there are 2 flights of stairs and she can't come. That's customer dissonance at like a completely different level. How did I deal with it? I just apologize. And I obviously give you your money back and I obviously do whatever I can do. But I still haven't figured it out yet.
Thank you. A small question for Yohaan. How do you quality control, make sure that it's really organic? Because a lot of fraud goes in organic.
That's a great question. So we have certain groups like this, which so right now there are 2 things. One is it's heavily dependent on trust. So and often what happens in groups like this is you have people that go and do a check and just make sure that everything you're doing is organic. We don't claim that all of the food at Kaboom is organic. We claim it's farm to fork, so it's sourced directly from the farms. And before we get a farm on board as an official supplier, we go and we visit the farms ourselves, and so that we make sure that everything's philosophically in tune with what we're doing. But it is really hard to, and I'm not even sure, this is slightly kind of I guess this is slightly contrarian, but I don't even think it's important to be chasing organic, because when you're chasing organic, you're chasing a certification. You're chasing a chappa. Actually, there are lots of farmers that are doing really interesting stuff with the right intentions and the right philosophies and the right methods, but don't, for various reasons, have that chappa. And I think it's as important to support them and to provide a marketplace for them as it is to provide a marketplace for somebody who has the funds and the wherewithal to get that organic chappa. But it is a huge challenge. Right.
I'm being told we have time for one more question. I think we should give them both a chance.
We can do 2.
Hi, Mehul here. It's for Yohaan. Speaking of organic farming, are you planning to tap into hydroponics and aquaponics in the future? Because at the moment it's already begun in the States and European sites, and I don't see like a big push, especially in India.
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, hydroponics and aquaponics is something we've been talking about for about a year and a half now. it is something that we really want to do. So something that we really want to do is actually convert each Kaboom restaurant into something that is more of a community table and urban farm as well. And we've already got, we've already got some designs of people to help us kind of grow a lot of, our garnishes and things like that. And that would be using, the hydroponics and aquaponics methods. So yeah, I mean, this is something that we really want to do. I think it's great that you have these options available because suddenly, you can create produce that you're more in control of. And then it's really nice that you can do that and balance it off with farms that are growing produce naturally, in using traditional techniques and traditional methods. So I think it's really nice that you can actually blend the two, and different horses for different courses. And it is something that we are really interested in doing, and I think we just need to sort of dot the I's and cross the T's on that. Yeah.
Like, I also think that in 2016, you're probably going to see the first flurry of restaurants in India that are producing a lot of their own things. Like, I've spoken to a lot of restaurant owners and things that are planning on doing that.
Yeah.
All right, that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.